That's how with Diesel get my mind right. It's crazy, my own homies hating, cause I'm almost in that limelight. Growing up not having shit made me grind.
What's good, YouTube? It's your boy King Terry back with another. We got TEARITOFF versus everyone. San Francisco biggest threat. Somebody in the comments told me to react to this.
I already planned on reacting to it anyways. Shout out Swamp Stories, man. Let's get it. Y'all be trying to comfort him in the comments. Y'all be like, his stories be fake, blah, blah, blah.
Welcome.
Hey, bruh. Shout out to Swamp Stories. You hear me? And it is what it is, bruh. I ain't gonna lie to you. He addressed it in one of the videos, I ain't gonna lie. But let's get into it. That ain't got nothing to do with me, bro.
Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this episode, we cover an insane story that the world needs to know.
We watched that video. That video right there was
make sure to leave a like and subscribe.
That video was crazy.
Also follow
you hear what he said? Make sure if you new, hit that like and subscribe button. No cap. I need y'all to do the same thing on my video too. Bro, if we don't hit that like, so basically, I need y'all to beat that like button up. He said something about your mama. Hey, okay, you ain't gotta like it, but that's just letting me know that if somebody say something about your mom, you ain't gonna hit the like button. That's all I gotta say.
But before
me personally, I can't let that slide. You said something about my mom, I can't really let that slide.
Let's get into it. In order to really explain this video, it's
going
to
to
require a lot
of
of background information. So if you like geography, sociology, or history, you're in for a good time today. And with that being said, let's head all the way back to 80 years ago, the 1940s. By this time, San Francisco was already pretty much built to capacity. With 630,000 residents in 7 square miles, this made San Francisco the second most densely populated city in America. However, in 1942, a large influx of people had to find somewhere to live, and by now most people know the story. But for those who don't, in 1942 San Francisco opened the second largest Navy shipyard on the West Coast, and at this time the city was already wealthier than most of America, so most of the locals were not going to work on the shipyards. Instead, thousands of desperate workers from Louisiana gladly moved out to San Francisco, and the first group of residents were able to purchase homes in the city's bottom right corner, known as Hunters Point. And by law, this was one of the only neighborhoods where they were allowed to buy homes. So once these homes filled up, the city had a crisis and needed to provide housing. And in response, the federal housing department turned parkland into thousands of public housing units. First came the Sunnydale Project.
Sheesh. It's how, if you notice, I don't know if y'all notice this, but in every major city like this, Detroit, San Francisco, you know what I'm saying, like, you know, Los Angeles, you know what I mean, every major city is always start off like this, bro. No cap. Like Detroit, for instance, was the richest city, you know, for a minute. You know what I'm saying? Now it's like, you know, it's so bad out there. You know, of course it's not everywhere. Everywhere is bad. Don't get it twisted. Don't think one city is better than the other, because everywhere has their bad parts and their good parts. But I like Swamp Stories, bro, because he takes it back. You know what I'm saying? He don't just get straight into it. He takes it all the way back. He ain't got to do that. He can just went straight in and started on Tear It Off and get into it.
Located in the Visitation Valley neighborhood, this became endless rows of identical apartments that go all the way up the hill. Then came Hunters Point, which became flooded with over a dozen public housing complexes. And over the 1940s and 50s, the city's dynamics started to change. Listen to this. In 1940, San Francisco was 95% white, which is actually kind of misleading because at the time Asian fell under the white category, and so did Hispanic, oddly enough.
Yep, I remember that.
The point is that San Francisco was 0.8% African American. That was a grand total of 4,800 people. Well, by the end of the 1960s, that number jumped to 96,000, which put them at 14% of the population. And throughout this time period, San Francisco had a 100% employment rate and had virtually zero crime of any sort. In fact, many would have considered it America's safest city. But
see, that's kind of wild. I ain't gonna lie, that's wild.
Is where everything fell apart. And it all began when the city's two biggest housing projects became bitter rivals. Sunnydale versus Hunters Point. The madness has never stopped since. This is the real deal. But before we get into it, let me run the intro.
Hey, yeah, talk to him. We about to get into it. Talk about the Swamp Stories. Tear it off versus everybody. Talk to me nice. Might have to shoot you in your head twice. 19 years old. Hey, no, let's get into it though. See what you're talking about.
And according to old rumors, it all started.
Okay, let me stop then. It all started over, girl. Let me chill out then.
Literally every
Let me just
single
relax.
If you're a college student like me, especially.
Oh my God.
Grammarly is
Hey,
a
bro.
digital writing assistant.
I'm gonna try to cut this out. No, I ain't cutting it out.
During this time was chaos.
Bro, watch out,
And
bro.
if you don't believe me, check out the numbers. In 1971, San Francisco had a homicide rate of 28 per 100,000. That was more than triple the national average. And to put it into context, that's the same rate as current day Chicago. So because of this, the next major change would come, starting in the
wild.
1980s. Many residents of the city's worst areas decided that they didn't want to raise their families in this bad environment. So thousands of people who had the means to leave decided to go far away. They knew the chance of their children getting involved in the neighborhood rivalries was high. So they sold their houses and moved out to Vallejo, Fairfield, and even Sacramento. And for those of you old enough to remember, you could buy a 2-story house in a brand new neighborhood for under $100,000. So because of the movement, the
Jeez.
city's dynamics started to change. Here's how it
That's
played
wild,
out.
bro. I
By
ain't
the
gonna
year
lie.
2000, San Francisco's African-American population dropped to just 7%. This is half of what it was in 1980. And that takes us to the gentrification era, which many say started at the millennium. So let me do my best to break down the streets of San Francisco. In almost every American city, the hood is considered anything that's low income and has activities going on. But in the new San Francisco, the hood is only the projects. That's because every house in San Francisco is worth more than $1 million.
That is
if you
crazy,
grow up in a
bruh.
house or a market rate apartment, chances are your parents make a lot of money. There are software engineers at Google that live directly across the street from the projects. So on one side of the street,
That's
you have
crazy.
people making $500K a year.
That's
and
wild,
on the
bro.
other side, you have families that earn less than the national poverty.
That is crazy, dog. That's wild, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That to me, that's crazy. Imagine you on this side of the you on this side of the street. You getting a $500K a month or a year, not a month. That'd be crazy too. I ain't gonna lie, $500K a month is crazy. And then the people across the street from you, they eating ramen noodles. You know what I'm saying? That's wild, bro. As a kid, you gotta grow up. You like, dang, why it seemed like he always got money and he got cars and all this stuff. I mean, you know, as a kid, you don't really pay attention, but that is wild though that they live in that close. Cause it's like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just wild. That's wild.
The wealth gap is insane in San Francisco, so it makes for an extremely unique dynamic. There's really
It all
two
makes
San
sense, though.
Franciscos, the projects and the houses, and for the most part, these
Project
communities
and
do
the
not
houses.
interact. So overall,
Yeah, I
violent
don't
crime
blame-
in
I
the city
believe
is
it.
lower than most
That's
American
crazy.
cities. However, within the community of projects, it is absolutely wild and never-ending chaos. There are project rivalries all over the city, but none are bigger than the one in this video. So let's finally get into it.
Finally, come on. I'm ready to actually hear what he
Projects
said.
are basically split up into 3 sections. You have 42 in the low, both of which I covered in my very first video. And up until just a few years ago, these were pretty much the most feared in the city. They virtually emptied out an entire rival section in under 10 years. But over the past few years, the historically forgotten about section of Sunnydale has gained major prominence. Let me introduce you to 3400 Blythedale, also known as the 4. Interestingly enough, this section of Sunnydale consists of mostly Samoan residents. And for those of you who aren't familiar, they originated from the tiny island of Samoa in the Pacific Ocean. And one thing about them is that they tend to be very big, and not like eating big, more like NFL big. Pretty much everyone is over 6 feet and at least 250 pounds. They
Hang on,
also
that's
have
wild.
a very strong culture of family, pride, and toughness that has instilled fear in the Bay Area for a long time. If you ever played Pop Warner football, trust me, you know what I'm talking about. However, they never had any sort of presence in the streets. Instead, they were more so a giant family that nobody messed with. Well, in 2012,
That's
the
hard.
unthinkable would take place. And that takes us to the bottom of Hunter's Point, also known as the Double Rock Projects. For years, this was the most feared project in the whole city. You had to enter through a gate and it was only one way in and one way out. So if you made the wrong move, it was probably over for you.
Yeah, I was
In
gonna say,
fact,
that
delivery
ain't even
drivers
cool,
and
bruh.
even SFPD refused to enter the gates. That being said, Double Rock always had a good relationship with the Samoans and tensions were never built. But after a silly argument, all that would fall apart. July 20th, 2012. A man named Henry Taulolo gets into an argument with his friend named Demarie Young, also known as D3. And for whatever reason, the situation elevates and D3 takes it to a whole new level. This shattered the Double Rock community and all relations were done. It got
One situation, bro, can change the whole thing, bro. That's crazy, bro. And they was probably cool as heck too. One little argument over something probably stupid. You know what I'm saying?
Got to the point where the Samoan residents of Double Rock moved over to Sunnydale and Alemany projects. And over the next few years, there were multiple serious incidents, including the 2014 passing of Double Rock member Latrell Shaw at the hands of Sunnydale man Fotu Paupau. However, everything would come to a complete halt for the time being. That's because in late 2014, the city of San Francisco decided to demolish the entire Double Rock project. And here's how it worked out. The city is legally required to provide housing to these old residents. However, moving into another project can be a bad idea because of how the rivalries work. So instead, the city offers the residents housing vouchers, which allows them to choose private housing and maintain their old rent. But San Francisco landlords were not going for this, and neither was Oakland, Richmond, San Leandro, and pretty much anywhere in the Bay Area.
It's all about that money, man.
For Antioch, California, located about an hour east of San Francisco. At this point, Antioch had built endless suburban neighborhoods, but nobody was moving there. It was
Why? Why? What? Let them tell me. What? I'm straight. I'm right here in the car on the Antioch. No kizzy for the same rent. Oh, y'all tripping. I ain't gonna cap. I don't care about no street stuff, no nothing. Them houses over there look big as heck. I know they got a pool in the back. If you got a pool in the back, you winning. I ain't gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna say you rich, but you definitely is winning because I ain't never had no pool. I really barely even know how to swim. So imagine having a nice little house and a pool in the back.
Too far for Bay Area commuters. And for those of you from Southern California,
that makes sense.
You can compare this to Palmdale or Victorville.
Okay, never mind that.
Beautiful suburban communities were left half empty.
No, I'm moving out there.
Got desperate and started accepting all the housing vouchers.
Yeah,
and as a result, a large portion of Double Rock residents began moving out to Antioch.
Okay,
Double Rock
they
was
did.
Officially vacated.
Okay. I take everything I said back. They did start moving out. I was gonna say they crazy if they wasn't moving out there.
And that takes us to 2016 to the new Double Rock, now known as the Alice Griffith Apartments. Over 150 brand new luxury-style units available for the previous residents to move back in. Fortunately, when everyone got back, the rivalry had calmed down and nothing serious was going on. However, a small portion of the previous residents never let their harsh feelings go, and that resulted in multiple squabbles in downtown San Francisco. Sunnydale versus Double Rock was sadly coming back, but this time the difference is that it's all high schoolers, and it all got serious on October 19th, 2016. That's when two Double Rock teenagers from Mission High School drove down to June Jordan High School to confront Sunnydale in the parking lot. However, things got heated and Double Rock took it to a whole new level. Bam! Thankfully, everyone was okay, and 2 days later, the Double Rock teenagers went down. However, they all received under 3 years. In fact, one of them, nicknamed Rooster, says that he was let out immediately due to his plans to attend college. The judge noticed his academic potential and let him go. But either way, this was the first incident that made everyone tighten up.
Rooster, bro.
Oh wow, this is getting serious.
Hopefully he got out the street, dude.
3400 Sunnydale started a new group called TEARITOFF. Let me introduce you to the important members.
This whole time I've been thinking, I didn't even know that TEARITOFF was like the name of the family. You know what I'm saying? I didn't even really know that. I really thought that was just his name for real. I guess because he the main one rapping. Let me know if other people out of TEARITOFF be rapping though, because you know he like the low-key like the leader.
Most importantly, you have Reno Fiapoto, also known as TEARITOFF Greasy. And this guy is the alpha male of the entire operation and is known to instill fear in everyone.
I just answered my question.
By his side is his brother Rasas, also known as TEARITOFF Sauce Bang. And this guy is the brains behind everything. He just knows how to land on large portions of money. Let me put it like that.
Talk to him
then. You have TEARITOFF Mo Gutta. This guy is the wildest one by far. Like, trust me, you do not want to make this guy mad. That's pretty much the original guys from Sunnydale, and they throw up a 4 to represent their block. But
I ain't gonna lie, they cold too, bro. I ain't gonna cap.
The first section to join up was the Alemany projects, and from there you have Lil Lar, who's a rapper who's hit over 500,000 views. And also from there you have another guy named TEARITOFF Joaquin. And altogether, TEARITOFF was not focused on rivalries. Instead, stacking up money, snatching chains, and being the biggest bullies in the Bay Area was their mission. So early on, they snatched the chain of Alabama rapper OMP Peasy. And while in high school, TEARITOFF members could be seen with hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. And according to federal investigators, it all came from what they call crams. However, in 2017, one of their crams would go terribly wrong. By this time, Sauce Bang, Greasy, and most of TEARITOFF have moved out to Antioch, California, and they happen to be attending Freedom High, a suburban school in nearby Oakley. So despite living in the suburbs, their cramming ways do not stop. October 25th, 2017, Sauce Bang drives around Antioch looking for money, and on 10th Street he runs into a man named Scipio Spears. Unfortunately, things get tricky and Sauce Bang takes it to a whole new level. This wouldn't be solved for quite some time and the TEARITOFF madness continued, and that takes us to February 2nd, 2018. TEARITOFF Greasy decides to head down to the peninsula despite being on ankle monitor. Well, of course, before
He was on that tether. But nah, bro. They was getting to a bag in high school. They talking about some 100,000. Hey, shout out dude though. Said he know how to get some money all the time. Need to mess with them. Nah, let me not even say that. Cause man, I feel like I can go out there. I feel like I can go out there to San Francisco. I don't know, bro. I don't know how many people watch my reactions. They'll be thinking that I'm with this side, but I just listen to the music because it's cold, bro. That's the thing. Like, I'm just keeping it at it.
Before going, he decided to tear it off. And for those who don't know, this is a very upscale
took
part
off
of the
his
Bay
leather.
Area. 11 a.m. Greasy arrives at the Millbrae Pancake House, and outside is a couple with a purse and a note bag. So Greasy hops out of the car and completes the cram. He then drives away. Well, 11 months later, SFPD took
They
down
caught him.
TEARITOFF. 5 arrests with all kinds of incidents all over the Bay Area. But for some reason, the district attorney decided to settle most of these cases. And as a result, TEARITOFF returned to the streets in 2020. And here is where the madness starts. In early 2020, social media tension started to rise between TEARITOFF and Double.
Bro, these ass, Swamp.
hypes itself.
Stop with the ass,
Where all your
Swamp.
tabs
Come on
go,
now, dog.
everywhere you go. Where you can surf without getting fished.
Bro,
There's no place like
Swamp.
Chrome.
I understand. Get to the bag, but bro, I'm watching the video. Bro, 2 of them. Oh, he tweaking. Oh, come on with that.
Double Rock was the first to kick everything off. April 28th, 2020.
Them boy, them Double Rock boys, they not joke. They ain't no joke. They do not play that.
Also known as BR is driving from Oakland to
serious.
San Francisco. Driving with him is TEARITOFF Mo Gutta. Well, little do they know, a car full of Double Rock teenagers has been following them across the bridge. So
Oh.
right as they pass Treasure Island, the cars end up side by side.
They just started shooting.
This is the moment that changed everything in the Bay Area. Double Rock and everyone they're
serious,
cool
I ain't
with
gonna lie,
started
Double Rock
clowning
don't
on
be playing,
Instagram
bro.
for days after this. And this is when some new characters came out of the woodworks. A rapper named Dreamlife Rizzy started putting out songs completely dissing BR and TEARITOFF. And he's honestly a really talented rapper, but this would still be a terrible decision. That's because TEARITOFF would not take it lightly. But first, they would go on one final mission for money, and this time it was Sauce Bang. On May 10th, 2020, he crammed a local store in Oakland and ended up with $300,000 in cash. And all this money would allow TEARITOFF to focus on one thing and one thing only, taking down Double Rock. And it all began on July 7th, 2020. The whole Double Rock is outside on their main block at 11 p.m., and that's when a car pulls up.
Bro, these boys hitting crams for 300,000 just to take somebody out, allegedly. That's wild.
March 16th, 2021.
Bro,
Double
whoa.
Rock's Derek McDougal, also known as TG, is driving in Richmond, California. This is a small city located about 30 minutes northeast
That's
of San
wild.
Francisco.
300K
Being
is
that he's
crazy,
outside of the
bro.
city, he feels comfortable being out and about. Unfortunately, that's not the case. A car pulls right beside him. Bang. Just a few days later, TEARITOFF Greasy would go down for it. However, the case would be dropped due to lack of evidence. And despite the investigations, TEARITOFF decides to do something wild for the 1-year anniversary of BR. On April 29th, 2021,
Is that
they checked
video
out
I
the
watched?
Bay Bridge, threw money, and recorded a music video. They just do not care one bit.
I think that's the video I had
away.
reacted to.
And that takes us to May 25th, 2021. At this point, Double Rock is everywhere but the city, but they can't go far enough. And on the morning of May 25th, Chris Cawthorn, also known as Kojak, is walking on Broadway Street in Oakland. And that's when a black Sprinter van pulls up. And here is where everything starts to change. Everyone surrounding this situation had to choose a side. Point blank period. Tear It Off pretty much said you're either with us or against us. And here's how it played out. Harbor and Kirkwood decided to join Double Rock, and that includes the rappers Swervy Bands and the Money Twins. On the other hand, an unexpected neighborhood would join Tear It Off. Let me introduce you to the Excelsior, also known as the E. For a long time, this has been a middle-class area and rarely sees any sort of issues. Sure, every once in a while something will happen, but the Excelsior holds zero weight in the Bay Area streets. However, they're represented by a young rapper named K Smigs, and once he got together with Tear It Off, the Double Rock side was not happy. So Double Rock rapper Dream Life Rizzy made a song mocking K Smigs' little brother who unfortunately passed away in a car crash. The Excelsior was not happy about this. That takes us to April 1st, 2022. Rapper Money Twin Dre is hanging out on 3rd and Palou in the Bayview, but that's when a car pulls up. Bang. Instantly, the entire Double Rock, Kirkwood, and Harbor side is infuriated, especially because this isn't supposed to happen. So just 2 days later, they would seek revenge. April 3rd, 2022. K Smigs is playing pickup basketball at his neighborhood park, and that's when a car pulls up. The guys get out and run onto the court.
Come on, bro.
This incident went viral on No Jumper and saddened many in the community. K Smigs was a talented rapper and was starting to make some noise. And some of you may be wondering how I know all about this. Well, both sides tell all of this in their music and on their Instagram stories. So if you're curious, go check out Tear It Off Greasy and Dream Life Rizzy's music. But hopefully this is the end of the madness.
It's definitely at the end, dog.
Especially because the Sunnydale projects are on their last days, literally. By the end of 2023, the entire Sunnydale will be demolished and
these niggas, dog. Bro, did y'all see how the apartments looked at the beginning of the video, bro? They looked so nice, so new. Look at them hoes now, bro. Bro, y'all gotta figure it out, bro. I know y'all losing people on both sides, bro, but they gotta figure it out, dog. This ain't cool, dog. Like, bro, like, what in the world, bro? Them apartments looked really good, bro. At the beginning, them apartments looked tough. But all that negative, all that bad violence, stuff like that, they just said, stop worrying about them. Stop cleaning the paint. Stop doing the ground. Stop.
Rebuilt
look at them.
Style condos. And so will
they gonna get rebuilt, but still, bro.
Projects. And that leaves me with one final message. All of this for what? None of this will matter once these areas are no longer the hood and everyone is living in Antioch. With that being said, I hope everyone stays blessed and treats life with more respect.
Man, like, comment, subscribe, man. Hit that bell, stay safe, stay blessed. I ain't no Tear It Off was like that. They wild. I ain't gonna lie. They got some hard hitters in their stuff. Double Rock wasn't letting up, but Tear It Off, boy, sheesh. We just gonna end it there. I ain't choosing sides. I ain't on nobody's side. I just listen to the music. I ain't even know they was that big. I thought Tear It Off Greasy was just Tear It Off Greasy. Thought he was just cold. Sheesh.
So I keep my eye tight. This what they been waiting for, but the wait is over. You better ask about Lil Snoop, bitch, I'm taking over. I put my city on my back like my polo.